So as we're prepping for this panel, and they're telling me about what they do all day, I'm going, doesn't anybody read a blank manual anymore? Expletive deleted. And the answer was, no, nobody reads a manual anymore. Video has become the lingua franca for corporate life, and these guys are building it and thinking about not just making the videos, distributing the videos, but video as a data type in and of itself, retrieving the videos. So I want to introduce Steve Vonder from, I'm going to get this right, IntelliVid Research, an analyst in the industry, and he'll introduce you to our panelists. Again, for those of you creating videos at the corporate level, I think this is going to be life-changing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robin. And I don't know about life-changing, but indeed, when you start thinking about video in the enterprise, the highest, best use of video comes in training. You're able to leverage video when it's implemented correctly to save money, to improve productivity, maybe even boost revenues if you implement the video in the right way with the right teams. And so we have a great panel here that I'm going to introduce you to, and so good, in fact, that we're going to get to the end of our 30 minutes, and you won't want to be going to lunch. You'll be wanting to listen to these folks a little bit longer because they have a lot of insight to share. We're going to start at the far end with Adam Lopiccolo from Trilyon. Adam, tell us a little bit about what you do at Trilyon and some of the ways that you see, if you can just provide a few comments early on about the role that you see video playing in really enhancing the training process in the enterprise.
Yeah, totally. Thanks, Steve. So my name's Adam Lopiccolo. I am a studio lead and video producer for Trilyon. I've been in the educational video production space for about 12 years as an editor, camera operator, director of photography, all the way from director to producer across projects. So really worn quite a few hats in the production realm, specifically for educational video. As far as your question, the way that I see video really enhancing the work that I do at Trilyon for the clients that I currently have has been adding a human element to a lot of the really technical cloud engineering content that we produce. I feel oftentimes there is a really, I don't know, kind of like negative feeling sometimes that I get when I see like a really lengthy, dry technical document and I'm supposed to be pulling like the important information out. I feel like having an instructor or maybe someone leading you through a demo or a UI experience can really bring out a human element to the learning and engage with the learner quite a bit more. And hopefully at the end of the video, taking away something that they've learned and forwarding whatever that learning objective is.
Right, so video quite a bit better than the dry training manual for sure. So let's move on to Jeff Wohlgemuth from Google. Jeff, tell us a little bit about your role there and how you see storytelling playing part of the video training process.
Sure, thank you, Steve. So my name is Jeff Wohlgemuth. I work at Google. I'm a creative producer, and I work on a small team called Developer Go-to-Market. And at the beginning of my career at Google, I worked on engineering education. And so I have a long history and background working in technical learning content. And then as of late, we work on internal comms and other creative projects to help support all the product teams that we work with. How does story play into this? Story, regardless of all of the technical advancements that happen, remains supreme. And I think the advancements of all the technological advancements that we've seen as of late has only helped us learn that more. You know, data is our friend, but keeping that storytelling supreme, knowing your audience, those sorts of things are what we think about in terms of taking a technical document and making engagement a highly engaging experience for our learners is supremely important.
So Bob Vonder from LinkedIn, you folks are one of the pioneers in terms of really implementing video for corporate enterprise style applications. What are maybe one of the key first of all, tell us about your role at LinkedIn and then what you folks have experienced in terms of at least one significant impact you've seen from implementing training videos.
Yeah, hi. Bob Bender with LinkedIn. I was actually with the learning team with lynda.com before the LinkedIn acquisition, so about 15 years in e-learning. With LinkedIn Learning, we are producing upwards to 3,000 courses a year across 7 different languages, so quite a bit of content. To answer your question, it's so interesting, of course, nowadays how we see the different modalities of training and text and AI and different things. We have an AI coach on LinkedIn, which is great. But when it comes to learning and still needing that authentic connection, right, for engagement, we do find as well that human connectivity is still super, super important for that. So even in a lot of our screen capture material for learning, which is, let's say you're learning Excel and you just you hear the instructor and you see everything on the screen happening. Well, including their face on the screen actually does help with engagement as well. So that trust factor is very important to us.
And Morgan Miles from Kaltura, tell us a bit about Kaltura, your role there, and while you're a cobbler wearing your own shoes, you also sell to other folks tools that are used to enable video training. So maybe share some top line ways that you've seen organizations really put video to good use for this type of application.
Yeah, so I think Kaltura's video content management and experience solution. And so on the sales side, I work with our clients on video strategies. How are they looking to, we're not on necessarily the creation side, but we're on the distribution side, the discovery side. How do you take vast amounts of video content at enterprises? Some of our clients have 20,000, 40,000. We had a dinner last night. One of the clients had over 700,000 video assets. What we look at is how do you, take that video asset and not just create it as a file, an individual file that someone can view, which is extremely important from a training perspective, right? Especially from compliance perspective and so forth. But if I'm an employee and I need to find a certain piece of information that's embedded in a piece of video content or across multiple pieces of video content, how do you crack open those pieces of video content and create an asset out of that so that now I can go get that 30-second snippet that's going to answer my question so I can move on with my day. And on top of that, even being able to have a conversation with that piece of video content or across that video library. Being able to open up an avatar and being able to say, hey, I'm trying to solve this problem. This is a question that I have. How do I solve this problem? And actually being able to have a back and forth conversation with that avatar that will get you to that asset or get you that answer to that question in real time, and even across multiple languages. So being able to switch to French, to Spanish, to Mandarin in real time. So that's what we are looking at right now is how do you make that content more discoverable? How do you get instant access to the information that you're looking for? And a focus on, in many cases, just-in-time learning, right? I need to find that. I need to move on with what I'm doing the rest of my day.
So there are so many ways to use video, and I want to circle back to you, Jeff, a little bit, building off that angle of storytelling. How do you know, or what are the determinants that you use to figure out that now is the time for us to incorporate video into the training process?
Thanks, Steve. When do you use video? When do you not use video? We are at a video summit, so I don't want to say video isn't always the answer, but it's not sometimes. I think it's up to me as a producer to understand what, let's say a product team comes to me and they've got a design doc or they've got a product they want to release something. It's up to me to look at that, understand what they want people to get out of it. And maybe it is a document, maybe it's an email, maybe it's a quick live chat with one of the PMs or something. Or maybe it's a video. Videos are a little bit more resource intensive, so being smart about that. I think it's hard to look at it in a vacuum as one project, but if you look across our slate of content that we do, sometimes we are a small team. Actually, both of them are in this room right now. I'm looking at them. And we need to be really smart about our resources. So that's kind of a logistical part of it, but in terms of understanding our audience and understanding really what they need. I like more what you were saying is, a good example that what I've done is someone will send me a YouTube video and I look at the timestamp and I'm like, oh, it's 21 minutes long. Oh, well, I don't really want to look at a 21-minute video. I might want to go into Gemini and say, hey, here's this video. When does it talk about fixing the carburetor or something? Oh, that's at 11 minutes. I can go watch that for 30 seconds or give me, a high-level overview. Sometimes that kind of just-in-time learning is really, really effective.
Yeah.
So that's just one example of the producing that we need to do to understand our audience and their needs.
Yeah, Adam, do you have thoughts about the best times to incorporate video, or what you can do to produce a good video that really enhances the training process?
Yeah, so I think what Jeff was saying, being really thoughtful about where you're applying video is incredibly important. One of the things I just wanted to comment on was video fatigue. One of the things that I've encountered throughout my experience is a lot of people are very focused on incorporating video into their course, but it's not thoughtful. It's just like, we have a gap to fill, we should put a video there. This entire course should be like, out of 50 deliverables, all of them have video touching it. You get to a point where you're just burning the person out that's going to be watching and taking the course and pulling away a meaningful learning objective from that content. And I think as Jeff mentioned, having the right fit is really, really important. Like, things that come to mind for me, it's like you're walking through a demo. You need to see what the UI looks like. It's easier to have an instructor do that over video than it would be to have a technical document for that, or a thought leader giving some sort of very important inflection point on a specific subject that you're trying to build some more credibility on in your course. That's really important. So I think that the quality and also the subject matter both go hand in hand. And, with smaller teams, and specifically corporate teams producing a lot of this content, we don't have gigantic resources to be able to say, like, we're going to make everything at the super top high-end level and produce this content so it's all uniform. So when you get into that approach, you get a lot of burnout. You see a lot of gaps with the brand where some of the videos potentially may not look as great as some of the other high-value ones, and by the time your learner has gone through those 50 deliverables, they're already burnt out and not paying attention to the stuff that really matters, where that video could have made a difference.
And Bob Bender, one of the ways to fight video fatigue is to make that content more engaging. Do you have any tips or techniques that people can think about that they can get people to sit up and take notice of these videos?
One of the things that we've just transitioned with at LinkedIn Learning is doing so much scale that we've done in the past. And that's a lot of green screen, a lot of talking head, which isn't necessarily engaging. But we're slowing down a little bit and just making sure that if we're having a lunch conversation and somebody's talking about their topic passionately to you, you say, that's exactly what I want to capture when we're filming, right? It's get to that authentic connection with the instructor and the viewer by getting them as natural in the environment as possible. So we've done a lot with LED walls in the past now as well, where there's a picture in back of them instead of just a green screen, maybe a practical element in front of them. Get them comfortable in their environment. And just real quick, during the pandemic, when we did a lot of virtual production, we found that it was incredibly engaging when we would send camera kits to the instructors. They would set it up in their homes. And they would talk to the camera, and it was so authentic because they were comfortable. They were in their home. So get them comfortable. Help them to see what that engaging communication was like when you were talking earlier with them at lunch or breakfast or something.
Yeah. Now, another way to drive engagement is to give people, Adam, kind of a choose-your-own-adventure type of approach. Now, I know you're not doing it at Trilyon now, but in the past, you've done some kind of filming that gives different branches to that. Tell us a little bit how that works and what challenges that presents from a video production standpoint. Sure.
So as far as this example, so in a past life, I used to work at Stanford University producing MOOCs. We did a course The client was a medical school, and it was all about training medical personnel, doctors, how to navigate complex, potentially difficult or dangerous situations inside of the ER. And one of the avenues we used for the course was a choose your own adventure style. So we would have a situation, give you an example, domestic abuse situation, victim is in the hospital, doctors are attending to them in the ER, and all of a sudden the abuser shows up. How do the medical personnel navigate that situation in a way that's safe, in a way that's going to protect the victim, and minimize any sort of negative issues that come along with that? So we utilize the Choose Your Own Adventure to just film a bunch of different scenarios, a bunch of different reactions that would allow the person taking the course to pick and see what happens if I apply this protocol incorrectly or correctly, and what it could potentially lead to.
Now, those can be somewhat difficult because you got to think about every different scenario and film that different scenario so it can follow different scripts there. But Morgan, with AI, there's a way to do kind of choose your own adventure in a little bit more efficient manner. How can Kaltura help support that now?
Yeah, so I think one of the pieces is in Choose Your Own Adventure in the video, you're gonna sort of pick the path that you're gonna go down, and one of the things that we're looking at is, how do you create that real-time conversation on top of that can guide you to the different path and to the different decisions, and actually have a conversation back and forth about why that path or the decision was either the right one or the wrong one. In this case, right, the domestic abuse one, which is a tough video, but it's one that there's nuance to that could help in conversational format versus just a view and click format. And I think too, what's interesting is, and it circles back a little bit to what Jeff was talking about, is there a need for certain types of videos? Is through those conversations, you actually find what are the questions being asked that you may not get just from a viewing experience. So then it goes back to what Jeff mentioned, is like, is this content something that we actually need? Well, if you get that same question through that conversation for multiple people, then actually this is a gap that we need to fill as a part of this training, and now we know with the data to now go fill that gap with a piece of video content that solves that piece. And that's something that we're doing with the health plan right now is, they run webinars on the different health plans. They're using these conversational avatars to understand what are the questions that we don't know when they attend these webinars, because we know that they registered, we know that they attended, and we know that there's some level of engagement, and unless they put that in a chat in real time or after the fact, we actually don't know. So on that replay, we can now understand what that conversation is about and come back and say, oh, sales team or content-wise, the gap that we need to fill there to make that, that explanation much easier, or get that question answered and so forth. So kind of combining those two pieces together.
And that really can help push the development of content in a cost-effective way, where you're able to essentially have a more flexible, more malleable type of piece of content that can be updated. Your long-term cost of ownership is probably less there, right?
Yeah, I think it will be, and I think data is king, right? If you can have that information and bring it to a team that is creating the content, and you have that data, then you know that that's an important piece of content to fill based on, basically the numbers behind it. So you kind of are able to, shoot your arrow a little bit straighter about what needs to be created based on the demand from those types of conversations that are taking place.
So Bob, AI or no AI, it is getting more cost effective to do high quality video production. Tell us a little bit about your experiences and what you're doing to create a better look and feel, or what market forces are impacting your ability to create a better look and feel for training videos.
For us with the learning, the human connection is still the most important, so we don't incorporate a lot of AI for the actual instruction. But there's a lot behind the scenes that does happen with AI. Even background creation, we do some background creation with AI. There's audio post is amazing AI. I think that's one of the best things right now for AI in production is how great it does with audio.
Yeah.
But also ideation. And we're sticklers for quality at LinkedIn Learning. And so even assessing what you might normally do with waveforms. You can now just take a screen grab of what you're creating, and you can have AI give you an assessment for accessibility, for color, for contrast, for all those different things. So we're using it more as a tool to help the quality aspect go.
Got it. And the guy from Google, Jeff down there, you probably use AI in one way or another, or else they kick you out of the Google Union if you didn't do it. How are you putting AI to work?
Well, yeah, as we know, Google is an AI-first company. I think I would be
Really?
remiss if I didn't use it.
Okay, what do you know? So
Yeah.
how
Pro
do
tip.
you put AI to work in storytelling?
I feared this question would come, I've been thinking a lot about this, actually. We, of course, use it. And I think, Bob, you hit the nail on the head. We do a lot of things. I think about it as a tool. I still think story is the most important thing in the way we employ AI. We're, of course, always evolving and trying new things. And we've heard that from a lot of speakers. It's always evolving. We're trying new things. It's changing. But I think the constant is our team has always been able to pivot. We always want to create great video content. And now we have access to more data. We can iterate more quickly. I can, start from an idea to get a script template very quickly. And then me as a human, I can edit that script. I can send that off to my product team or our partners or our team, and we can look at it very quickly. Whereas it may have taken me a few days or a week to write that script on my own. Things like that, and that's one of the ways in which we can engage with AI much more iteratively. The video thing is still, I think, it's getting there. But we use it in so many different ways to quickly iterate, get ideas across the board, and get alignment on a project much more quickly than we used to. And it's very powerful. But it's kind of like the internet. It's not going away, right? We're all using it. It's very convenient in so many ways. There's always trade-offs, but I think at the end of the day, we're trying to pivot to use it to be just a powerful tool.
Yeah. And it's a powerful tool that can transform the way organizations manage their knowledge. Morgan, can you talk a little bit about some of the things that you're seeing at Kaltura in terms of video's integration with agentic applications and how video is impacting the world, both on ingesting content that's going to be on in databases, and then ultimately the generation of content that gets distributed from those databases?
Yeah, I think I'll start with the content that's distributed from databases.
That's a big
it's a big
concept
question.
there.
But
Sorry.
I think to Jeff's answer, I think at the end of the day, the story is going to be the most important piece, right? And that can be, at a great production level, or one of the clients I'm working with is they want to enable frontline workers to be able to take videos of how they fix different parts of the buildings that they manage as a global company, right? And they have tens of thousands of workers who need to understand how to, work in HVAC, right? And so the story for them is, I know how to do it, and I've been doing it for a long time, so how do you distribute that piece? But I also think part of it is, the storytelling may be, it's not AI, but it's, is that 23-minute video actually better suited for a playlist in 3-minute chunks where you can break it up by specific topic, and then it doesn't feel as if it's so consuming as a 20-minute video, but in the 3-minute chunk, people are able to consume it better, right? So different ways to take that content and distribute it. But I think from the other part of the question is sort of the ingest and the volume of content. The problem that we're trying to solve, and the biggest problem that we're probably trying to solve is, I'm a big organization, or I'm a big marketing department, and we're very video first, but how do I get either our employee or our customer or prospect to find the information they want that is contained within a single video asset or across multiple video assets, and being able to have that conversation. And it really is like, for lack of a better term, sort of cracking open the video and looking at it in the moments in the video and indexing that piece so that when somebody asks a question, they can get to that point, to that 25-second piece of content that's going to answer their question. And like most questions have multiple answers to them, right? So it's not just a single video clip. It's probably 3 or 4 that's going to help answer that question, but stringing those together in its own playlist that's being curated for them. And so that's a big piece that we're looking at, because I think, the clients that are using that technology that we provide, what the biggest thing they're noting is we're getting plays on content that haven't had plays for 5 or 6 years because no one knew where it was, no one knew how to find it. But now it's able to be served up to them in a format that they can actually access it, right? So that actually the longevity of content now is actually longer than it had been in some cases.
So, Bob, we didn't talk about this in our preparation call, but you folks manage a huge archive of training assets. What challenges should companies expect as their libraries and archives of training videos grow? How do they get the most out of that content that they've poured their blood, sweat, and tears into producing?
Depending on the content, like say for learning, much of it, to your point too, there's a lot of content you create that is maybe evergreen, some that might expire that day, right? And so, but having that sort of AI search capability, very important. We have a news organization as well, LinkedIn, that uses that on a daily basis. So like they got to search for something that, oh, Obama said this line or something like that, and they can grab that and get it within seconds. And utilize that, so extremely important. But like for on the learning side, not as important. So totally dependent on the content.
Yeah. So I'm going to close out with Morgan here. We have huge video archives, but also we have the potential on the horizon for students to sit down and interact with real-time avatars at some point. How soon is that coming? When is that going to be a reality? And what challenges do we need to address as an industry to make that commonplace?
Well, I think you can do it today from an avatar perspective.
But at what cost? How expensive would it be?
I mean, I think it depends on what that usage is, right? Like how much adoption is going to take place ultimately drives the cost to it. But I think that cost is coming down over time as it becomes, more prolific. I think the other challenge is, and because it's new technology, is right. We talked a lot about authenticity, and avatars. You will know that it's not real. So what is? I think the question that is still emerging in the market is what is the right use cases for something that is, looks meant to look real in an avatar format, but is not real. And the pieces that we're seeing is where are those gaps where people are looking for something that's kind of always on from that perspective, right? And I'm thinking about like I'm a nurse who's onboarding, right? I've got the humans that I'm working with, the preceptors that are guiding me on my onboarding path, but it would be great to have an avatar that I can come back to 24/7 and have a conversation with about, the pieces that I learned that day, or how to work in this surgeon or with this surgeon or this type of surgery. If I'm an employee who's onboarding, typically there's someone who's guiding you through that process in HR, but it'd be nice to have someone on the side, an avatar, to be able to answer questions or, point you to that content that's been created to review and to follow up on and create an onboarding path that is conversational versus I'm sort of navigating through multiple systems. I think that's the piece because, you don't want to take the human element away completely because, at a certain point, there's a tipping point. I expect that if people are going to say like, well, you don't care enough to actually provide me the human experience. So how do you supplement that that's going to drive a lot of efficiency in these processes that, maybe have been overburdened from a human perspective that can be offloaded. And I think that's one that I think we're going to see over time. And so it's, I'd say that most clients that I'm talking to is that the human component is going to remain. I actually think it's going to become more strategic in many cases and actually more valuable. And with some of the lower hanging fruit and the guidance pieces, we're going to see more of the chatbot, the real-time guidance, the conversational avatar piece helpful in that.
So final lightning round question. We have less than 2 minutes left, 20 seconds each. Key takeaways for the audience. The best thing you can do to enhance the value of your video training is what, Morgan? We'll start with Morgan, go all the way down. Enhancing the value of video training. What's the best thing I can do? I put you on the spot. Sorry about that.
Well, I mean, I think I'm biased. I think the one is what I talked about, right? How do you make that content accessible at any time that people can access and get to? I think
Got
that's the biggest piece.
That's all. Bob.
To get proper engagement, focus on authenticity.
Good. Jeff.
Short form content. Editing down the piece to the essence of what people need to learn.
Yeah, I would say it'd probably be a combination of what you and Bob said: shorter content and being authentic.
And we are abiding by what you say there, gentlemen, at the end, Jeff and Adam. We are finishing on time. Join me in thanking our panel for sharing their insight today.